Book summary by Teddy Bear's Storytime.
Looking for Alaska is John Green's debut novel, and it explores themes of love, loss, friendship, and identity. The novel follows the life of Miles, Pudge, Halter as he navigates the complexities of adolescence while attending boarding school. The book is structured around a pivotal event in the characters' lives, which is foreshadowed in the before section and reflected upon in the after section. The novel won the Michael L. Prince Award and has been widely praised for its authentic portrayal of teenage emotions and struggles. Characters: Miles, Pudge, Halter, the protagonist, a shy and introverted boy obsessed with famous last words. Alaska Young, a beautiful, enigmatic, and emotionally complex girl who fascinates Miles. Chip, the Colonel, Martin, Miles's roommate, who is loyal, intelligent, and fiercely independent. Takumi Hikohito, a close friend of Miles and Alaska, who is humorous and talented at rapping. Lara Butiskaya, a Romanian student who briefly dates Miles. Dr. Hyde, a religious studies teacher at Culver Creek, whose lessons inspire deep thinking in Miles and his friends. The Eagle, the strict dean of students at Culver Creek, who enforces the rules at the boarding school. Book summary. Before Miles's journey to Culver Creek. The story begins with Miles, Pudge, Halter, a 16-year-old boy from Florida who is bored with his ordinary life. He is fascinated by the last words of famous people and hopes to seek what poet François Rabelais described as the great perhaps. He decides to attend Culver Creek Preparatory School in Alabama, where his father had gone. Miles is eager to escape his uneventful life and find adventure. Meeting Alaska and the Colonel. Upon arriving at Culver Creek, Miles meets his roommate, Chip, the Colonel, Martin, who nicknames him Pudge, ironically due to his thin frame. The Colonel introduces Miles to Alaska Young, an enigmatic and beautiful girl who is both charismatic and emotionally unpredictable. Alaska captivates Miles with her intelligence, wit, and rebellious spirit. The trio, along with Takumi Hikohito, form a close-knit group of friends who bond over pranks, shared secrets, and deep conversations. Friendship and pranks. Miles grows closer to Alaska and the Colonel as they engage in various pranks against the school's wealthy and privileged students, known as the Weekday Warriors. Alaska teaches Miles about rebellion and life, encouraging him to experience life fully. Throughout this time, Miles develops deep feelings for Alaska, despite her having a boyfriend named Jake. Alaska, however, is mercurial, oscillating between moments of affection and emotional distance. Seeking the great perhaps. As the school year progresses, the group discusses profound philosophical questions, especially in Dr. Hyde's religious studies class, where they are asked to ponder the meaning of life and death. Miles, captivated by Alaska's enigmatic personality, learns that she, too, is seeking answers to life's big questions, particularly how to escape the labyrinth of suffering, a phrase Alaska frequently uses, referencing a quote from Simon Bolivar. The tragic night. The pivotal moment in the novel comes when, after a night of drinking and pranks, Alaska receives a phone call that deeply upsets her. She hastily leaves in the middle of the night, driving away while still intoxicated. The next morning, the students learn that Alaska has died in a car accident. Her death shocks and devastates the group, particularly Miles, who is consumed with guilt and confusion. He and the Colonel question whether her death was an accident or suicide. After coping with loss. In the aftermath of Alaska's death, Miles and his friends grapple with grief, guilt, and questions about Alaska's state of mind. The group feels responsible for letting her drive while intoxicated. They obsess over Alaska's final moments, trying to determine if she intended to die or if it was a tragic accident. Miles and the Colonel retrace her steps, seeking clues to understand Alaska better. They find out that the night of the accident was the anniversary of her mother's death, which she had never fully processed or forgiven herself for. Searching for meaning. Miles and the Colonel eventually come to accept that they may never know the true circumstances of Alaska's death. They realize that Alaska was deeply troubled, and her death was likely a combination of her impulsive behavior and unresolved emotional trauma. In the process, Miles learns that life is full of unanswerable questions and that searching for meaning in every event may not bring closure. Forgiveness and moving on. The novel ends with Miles coming to terms with Alaska's death and understanding that he cannot always seek definitive answers. He reflects on the lessons he learned from Alaska, particularly about embracing life's uncertainties. In the final chapter, Miles writes an essay for Dr. Hyde's class, explaining that forgiveness is the key to navigating the labyrinth of life. He forgives Alaska for leaving, and in doing so, he finds a sense of peace and closure. Themes. Search for identity and meaning. Miles's journey to Culver Creek is driven by his desire to find the great perhaps, symbolizing the human quest for purpose and meaning. Throughout the novel, characters grapple with questions about life, death, and personal identity, each seeking answers in their own way. Love and friendship. The deep bonds between Miles, Alaska, the Colonel, and Takumi demonstrate the importance of friendship during times of personal growth and tragedy. Miles's unrequited love for Alaska drives much of his emotional journey, while his friendship with the Colonel provides him with support and camaraderie. Mortality and the nature of death. Alaska's death is a central event in the novel, prompting the characters to confront the inevitability of death. Dr. Hyde's lessons on religion and philosophy ask students to ponder mortality, and Miles's fascination with famous last words reflects a preoccupation with death and what comes after. Guilt and forgiveness. After Alaska's death, Miles and the Colonel struggle with intense feelings of guilt, questioning whether they could have prevented the tragedy. The theme of forgiveness runs through the novel, as Miles ultimately learns to forgive Alaska for leaving and himself for not stopping her. Suffering and the labyrinth. Alaska's repeated references to the labyrinth of suffering highlight the novel's exploration of human suffering. Characters reflect on how to escape or navigate their own personal struggles, and the conclusion suggests that acceptance and forgiveness are part of the path forward. Analysis. Character development. Miles undergoes significant personal growth throughout the novel. He starts as a shy and passive observer, but through his experiences with Alaska, he becomes more introspective and learns to accept life's uncertainties. Alaska's complexity. Alaska is portrayed as both captivating and tragic. Her erratic behavior and emotional struggles make her a complex character who impacts everyone around her. Her death serves as the catalyst for Miles's personal journey. Symbolism of the labyrinth. The labyrinth is a recurring metaphor for life's difficulties, particularly the pain and suffering individuals experience. Alaska's belief that the only way out of the labyrinth is straight and fast hints at her possible suicidal intentions. The role of philosophy. Dr. Hyde's class on world religions and philosophy provides the framework for much of the novel's thematic exploration. The philosophical questions posed in the class reflect the internal struggles of the characters as they deal with life and death. Ambiguity of Alaska's death. The novel leaves Alaska's death ambiguous, refusing to provide clear answers about whether it was an accident or suicide. This ambiguity reinforces the theme that life does not always offer neat conclusions. Conclusion. Looking for Alaska is a poignant coming-of-age novel that delves deeply into the emotional lives of its characters as they grapple with friendship, love, loss, and existential questions. The novel's structure, divided into before and after, emphasizes the impact of Alaska's death on Miles and his friends. Through Miles's quest for meaning, the novel explores the inevitability of suffering, the complexity of human relationships, and the importance of forgiveness. John Green's debut novel resonates with readers due to its authentic portrayal of teenage life, complete with the confusion, heartbreak, and self-discovery that comes with growing up. Ultimately, Looking for Alaska suggests that life's mysteries may never be fully solved, but finding peace requires accepting ambiguity and forgiving oneself and others. The end. Love the book summary. Subscribe Teddy Bear's Storytime YouTube channel now. Like the video. Turn on the notifications. And leave your comments. See you in next book.